Welcome to the Book Flood Podcast. I am your host, Tom Nixon. My guest this week is René Hohls. René is currently in Mendocino County at Fort Bragg Unified School District and spent the last 10 years as the Learning Resource Library Specialist for the Ventura County Office of Education. She has worked with many districts to provide direct library services and professional development training for all levels of school library staff with a focus on equity, diversity, and inclusive practices. René has been active in the Ventura County Reading Association and the California Reading Association. She currently serves as the president of the California School Library Association, CSLA. Welcome, René.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. That was a lovely introduction. It's very nice to finally be here with you.
Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate you jumping on with me. So why don't we start with talking about your career trajectory? So what have you done to get to here?
Well, I would say it's not been a meteoric rise. It's been more of a slow, consistent burn. I really, as with a lot of people in library services, it's my second career. I worked as a paralegal in Arizona for about 15 years. And when my kids were small, I volunteered to work in their library, which was on an Air Force base in Germany at the time. And I learned a lot about what goes on in an elementary library. I also learned a lot about what doesn't necessarily happen in an elementary library. So I wrote a grant application for a Laura Bush grant, which is a needs-based grant, and I got it. And it was, well, yeah, yay. But also I got my second phone call was actually from the base commander because it's a need-based grant and he wanted to know why we were in such need. This was something he hadn't really thought about because we were the first DOD school overseas to get this grant, which I didn't know, of course. So I learned that libraries need support. I learned that people all love libraries, but they don't always know what goes on. And I learned that change was possible. And I became very passionate about the idea that if you put your mind to it and you're persistent, you can find ways to make big, lasting changes in our kids' lives and our school libraries. And I came back to the U.S. with my kids, and I decided to get a job working in a library. I worked as a classified person in a middle school library, an elementary school library, and then I worked at Ventura County Office of Ed for 10 years. I went to I've been in a couple of different teacher librarian programs. I can tell you a little bit about all of those, but I will say that it's not the easiest path to come into it as a second career. And then during the pandemic, we all made some life choices and evaluations, and I decided to come back to my original hometown here in Fort Bragg and start advocating and working in the libraries and schools here in my very small, very rural town up here. So I've been up here now for 3 years.
Nice.
So it's a long trajectory.
Don't we have those crazy stories, though? Right?
It's been a long.
Describe your work with CSLA. I know I mentioned that you're the president now, but how did you get there?
Again, a circuitous route, I would say. I have been a member of CSLA for 15 years and was very familiar with what they do as part of the involvement that I had with the Reading Association. Also, I've been a member of that for about 15 years as well. The California School Library Association is an amazing group of people in this state who are they just don't give up. They will and continue to work for our schools and our students in the state, advocating for libraries, advocating for certificated librarians to be in every school, every district, every county. It's an uphill battle. There is something about that passion that just doesn't give up. And my work with them has included regional participation in Southern California at Ventura, regional participation here in Northern California. Becoming president was a combination of, we need someone like you. Will you do it? And, you lay awake a few nights thinking, I'm not worthy.
Right.
I don't know, how to do this. And then realizing that everyone else felt the same way. So leadership with CSLA is a team effort, as are most things with CSLA, as you know, a team of 3. So we are the past president, the current president, and the incoming president. And the 3 of us tend to work together on most of our things. We each have our sort of passion projects, but the leadership really is focused on making CSLA more inclusive, making it more of a two-way membership relationship. We're hoping to encourage our classified staff in the state to become members and to be part of this organization as we evolve post-pandemic, budgetary shifts, and post a lot of things as we go into the future. To answer your question, just like everybody else, when you get tapped and you have that volunteerism stripe, it's very difficult to say no, especially when it's for the students of the state.
Absolutely. So I love going to the CSLA conference. It's always a good gig. Do you think it's important for library staff to go to conferences, and why is that?
Yeah, absolutely. And not just the CSLA conference. I mean, of course, I think all library staff in the state should come to this conference, our conference, because we are tailored, and everything we do is sort of meant to match the work and the triumphs and the struggles within school libraries in this state. We have the research, we have the people, we have the connections that we want to share with everybody who works in the school library. Professional development is something that most or all districts and leadership in school districts agree is very essential. It's important to know what's happening. It's important to stay current on your learning. It's important to keep your programming up to speed, all of the things that make us successful in education. What I tell library staff is to remember that there are very few opportunities for school librarians, whether they're professional, credentialed librarians, whether they're part-time classified library workers, or anything in between. There are very few opportunities to come out of that silo. If you work at a big school, you may be the only librarian on staff. So who do you talk to compare notes or plan, lessons with another library worker? Who is your peer in that scenario? And most people don't have one. Most people do not have another library person to collaborate with. And that's something that the conference really lets people do. It lets them connect. It lets them build that professional learning community. It's the accidental conversations, the lunch you had with somebody, the person you sat next to during a meeting or a workshop or something that you may find becomes your next best professional connection because you were there in the place where it's happening. And that's not even touching on the content. The AI that we all need to understand and use in our libraries, basic collection development, book challenges. Book challenges are evolving and getting much more sophisticated. We are having, more involvement with very young students now. A lot of librarians are not sure how to connect with your PK preschool age students. We don't keep board books in the library necessarily. Right. How do How do you add to your collection and curate your collection without bringing in your own personal bias or the bias of your principal? Are there books you don't buy? Are there books you don't put on the shelf? These are all topics that get evaluated in the open, in concurrent sessions and workshops during the conference. And it's a whole lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to get to celebrate books, to get to celebrate authors. This year we have a lot of authors coming. Our keynote speaker is John Shu, who I'm sure you know who he is.
Yeah.
We have Michael Threets, who is the love librarian all over Instagram right now. He'll be there on the last day, but it's the stuff that happens in between that really makes the conference beneficial. And for a lot of library staff, this is the only professional development they ever have. For some of them, it's the only place they ever get any kind of training. Some of them show up, here's the library, go do your work. And we want to make sure that people are set up for more success so that our students have more success in their school libraries. So yeah, conference is an essential piece of what we do.
When is the conference?
When is the conference? The conference starts on January 30th and runs through February 2nd, which is a Sunday. It's going to be in San Jose, downtown San Jose at the Signia Hotel. We're hoping that the location gives people a lot of flexibility. There's a lot to do right there in downtown San Jose. So eating off, away from conference is easy. Walking is easy. There's a park across the street. There's a museum next door. So we're hoping it'll be a really great experience for people and an affordable option within driving distance or flying for people from Southern California. Our goal is to move them back and forth from Southern to Northern. And then occasionally there would be options for virtual conference, but we found that the general membership and people who attend really prefer to be in person. So the conference will be late January, doesn't conflict with the Super Bowl or any of the other things that people have going on in their lives, we hope. And this year is especially great because it falls on the Lunar New Year, and our special guest, Virginia Lowe Hagen, is the person who's going to be, she's a great author friend of ours, mine personally, and she's going to be bringing a lot of authors with her and showcasing some books on that topic as well. So it's going to be great.
What's the one part of the conference that you never want to miss?
Oh boy. Well, I actually have two. I have two that are particularly special for me. One is any of the author panels. I think it's really important to be able to hear about books. We read a lot of summaries. We read a lot of reviews. We see, oh, it got 4 stars or it got 5 stars or it's recommended for this and that. But when you're in a room with the author and they tell you why they wrote the book or why they drew the pictures the way they did or what the story means to them personally, there's so much more to understand about the books that we see every day on our shelves and that we're sharing with students. So I never miss an opportunity to get to know the authors. They're folks that are not always available in the real world, and there they are at conference. So I love that. The other thing that I never miss is the legislative briefing, which I realize sounds really boring, and people at conference are like, I don't want to go to that, that doesn't sound very exciting. But I have found over the years that I learn a lot about our whole state and the state of our finances and the state of our schools and the state of our library budgets. Also, things to take back. For instance, I didn't know, initially when the LCAPs first started getting done, it never occurred to me that I could have a line item. I could suggest a line item. Hey, how about if we put libraries in the LCAP and put some money there? And I'm sure other people, I thought of that right away. For me, that was kind of a light bulb moment in the legislative sessions. And over the years, there have been many ideas that have sprung up during that legislative evaluation and review that have been very helpful for me. But the last thing I'm going to say, and you probably know this too, the most fun is definitely going to the CYRM banquet.
Yes. California Young Reader Medal Banquet on Saturday night.
That's correct. CYRM, the California Young Reader Medal. We are one of the 4 groups, organizations, professional organizations that's part of the California Young Reader Medal. Each group recognizes a different section of the medal over the course of the year. Some of them do a brunch. Some of them do a luncheon. We do a formal dinner banquet, which makes it last a little longer. We invite the winning authors to this banquet and hope that they can attend. Usually they can, but sometimes it gets a little wonky. And then we invite some students to come and share why they voted for that book, because this is the only student vote winners for a book award. The winners are chosen by students who read all the books and then vote on their choice, which makes it a very special award. It's not grown-ups deciding, what kids love. It's kids telling you what they love. So, but yeah, the CYRM dinner is always a really great opportunity to sit with people you don't know yet, to mingle with folks that you've seen at the conference for the last 2 days that you haven't had a chance to connect with, somebody who presented something that you found interesting. It's just a social moment for librarians to have a good time and celebrate books and recognize the hard work that goes into that as well. So,
absolutely yes to all 3 of those. Your bookend ones, authors and the CYRM dinner, absolutely. But I'm with you. The legislative session, I mean, miss it at your own peril. If you can't look out in the world and see that California has some funding issues surrounding libraries,
mm-hmm.
it's important for all of us to advocate, for all of us to know. Absolutely.
Yeah, and to understand the nuance of it. It's one thing to understand, libraries, our school libraries need funding, but our school libraries need a lot of other things that are connected to funding. We need staffing, we need training, we need data. We need to have a better understanding of where our teacher librarians are, where is the classified staff, what counties are pursuing school library development, and what counties may be that may be an area of growth for them, that may be an area where they're struggling. So it really gives you a lot of information about what's happening across the state.
Absolutely. Why should someone volunteer to be part of the CSLA board?
Because it's awesome. I think the only thing I can speak to is my own experience. And there are times when volunteering in any capacity for school librarians or school libraries or student-led things can be a little frustrating. I'm just going to be honest. It can be a little, you can feel overwhelmed at times because you're not sure you're making a difference. And what I would say I've learned the biggest lesson is that when you are working on something for students, especially in CSLA, you are working with people with a shared passion and a shared, and that makes your time and your effort definitely speak. You may not be as loud as you want to be, and you may not see the change right away. And sometimes it may feel like you're a fish in a tree, but it is always rewarding to be part of a group trying to make change. And if your passion is libraries and schools, and your passion is students having access to information and books, if your passion overlap anywhere in that sphere, and CSLA has a spot for you. If you love doing social media and you care about what school librarians know or what they have access to, we have a spot for you. If you're good at numbers and you care about school librarians, we have a job for you. CSLA is a great, strong group of the most diverse people I've ever worked with on, and I've done a lot of volunteering. I've been a volunteer with the Red Cross. I've been a volunteer with the Reading Association. I've volunteered for library foundations. The California Reading Association. There are plenty of places to put your love of reading and literacy and information out there. There are plenty of places. I would suggest that CSLA has a very solid vision and mission, and we know what we're trying to do. We are clear on our legislative priorities. We have good communication with our lobbyists. We are solvent. We are a strong group. And so anyone willing to offer their time and effort, we would be grateful, and we will make the most of that opportunity. So it's not a squandered effort. And it's rewarding. When I get a book and I can hand it to someone and say, here's the book, here's how you can use it, and here's what it might mean to your collection, that makes me feel good. That's where it's not a selfless giving. I get to feel that, and I get to know that I made a difference. So there's always that, the more you give, the more you get.
Nice. What advice do you have for new library staff?
Thank you. Advice for new, well, I think the best advice I could offer anybody who's new to school library work is reach out. Reach out to anyone around you who is interested. Usually a campus has a few school library champions mixed in with the staff or the administration or somewhere. There are people who will champion your work. Ask questions, reach out to CSLA. You don't have to be a member to take advantage of some of the resources we have. If you send us a question, we will definitely get back to you. You don't have to be a member, but reach out to each other. That's really the best advice I can give is if you don't know who to reach out to CSLA. We will connect you with the people around you in your physical location or your grade level span, or wherever we can fit you in to the conversation and the professional community. School librarians are often very resourceful and very independent, very used to being the only one on campus, but you will love your job more, and you will have more to grow and offer yourself if you are able to connect with other people doing the same work. And that's what we do. We connect people. Our theme this year for our conference, or it's 2025, but the theme is Stronger Together. And our hope is that we can get that message out to school librarians who are members, who are not members, who have been members but let it go. A lot of people, during the pandemic wondered if these professional organizations were going to be essential to them in the future. My argument is yes, absolutely. Stay connected. Join CSLA.
Is there a book or series of books from your childhood that still resonates with you? This is the question I ask everyone.
I love this. Man, yes. So growing up, I had a grandmother who read a lot. She could read 2 or 3 books a week. That was her thing. And she happened to have a complete set of Nancy Drew and a complete set of the Hardy Boys.
Wow.
So I think from 6th grade until maybe 8th grade, that's all I read. I read them all. And then it was Agatha Christie, and then it was Sherlock Holmes, and then it was anything with a mystery to it. And I still encourage every library I go into, I still encourage them to look at the Nancy Drew series and anything that's mystery, because I think especially for that middle-aged group, I know it made me a strong reader. It was kind of fun to think that Nancy Drew could go around and do these things. I don't want to date myself, but this was a while ago. Yeah, so I would have to say it was Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys. The Hardy Boys was also pretty good stuff. Right now, did you ask me what I'm reading right now, or was that?
I was about to do that. What are you reading now?
Well, let's see. My to be read pile currently has a cultural proficiency book for work, The Paris Librarian, because I love that story, and
That's sitting on my pile too. My wife just finished it and
it's
loved it.
yes, very good. Let's see. Hmm. Mm. Oh, I can't remember the title now. It's I think it's your next
I jump all around, so I'm not sure who
okay.
it could be.
Septia? Is
Oh,
that how you say it?
Ruta Sepetys and
Sepetys, that's it. Yes.
Steve Schenken,
Yes.
the Bletchley Riddle.
Yes.
I highly recommended. They actually went live today. It's already up on the podcast.
Yay.
And it was the first one where I've had two on at the same time, which was interesting. But
That must have been
the
fun.
book is great. Definitely a must read.
I love her stories. Historical fiction is my favorite genre of any of them. I love to be in a real place experiencing a story that may have happened, could have happened, might have happened,
Mm-hmm.
Fountains of Silence was just amazing. Sepetys is an amazing author.
Right.
So that's the
And,
kind of
and
stuff.
Steve Schenken, it was an interesting mix. If you get a chance, you should listen to that because they talk about sort of how that all came together. And it came together in the beginning at a conference.
See?
Things happen.
So, Tom, what are you reading?
What am I reading? I just finished the Bletchley Riddle. I believe next up is the Paris Librarian because my wife just finished it. So it's sitting in the living room as we speak.
Great mind. That's wonderful.
For sure. I want to thank everybody for coming to the podcast today. Please like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. I want to thank our guest, René Hohls. Amazing, amazing interview. I greatly appreciate you being able to come.
I'm grateful for the opportunity. Thank you, Tom. It's always great to see you. I'm going to see you at conference, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.